We are. So I have been really looking forward to introducing you to everyone, Isaac, because I know a lot of people after we put out the announcement, a lot of people were really interested. Everyone's like, tag me, let me know when you're live. And I think it's because a lot of people are feeling like they're creatives. And I think a lot of times in society, we're told that creatives, you need to give that up in order to create a career. Like there's like weird myths around this. So I've been really, really looking forward to you talking about what it is that you do. Why don't we start with just give a brief introduction of yourself. Who are you? Where do you live? And what's your profession?
Yeah. So my name is Isaac Versaw, and I currently work as a art director in a place called Riot Studio, which is a branded content studio. So we do a lot of different kinds of content production for brands that will live on different publishing platforms. And I'm based in New York City.
Fantastic. Okay, so tell us about, just kind of scroll backwards in time to when we first found each other. What was going on with you? Like, what was that position you were in back then?
Yeah, so then I was on contract at Riot, and I had been a contractor for a couple years, about 2.5 years, and I actually had like reached a contract maximum. So they had to actually let me go because they weren't converting anyone to full time. So I was in a weird flux where I was kind of unemployed and kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to really do. Did I want to go back into the kind of advertising branded content space? Or did I want to pursue some other passions that really were important to me or pressing? And I felt like I needed to kind of finally make a transition into those areas. So I did kind of use that time to start pursuing voice acting, which was always a passion of mine. And ultimately, they kind of rehired me after my break period was passed. And they brought me back on as a creative strategist, which wasn't exactly a role I was super excited about. It was more about pre-sale and pitching and less kind of hands-on tactical kind of execution, and more just coming up with ideas, which I love to come up with ideas, but I really like to see my ideas come to fruition and live out in the world. So that's kind of where I was when I first met you. I was back kind of in this world as a contractor and not exactly doing the kinds of productive creation of work.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about that, because I think it's interesting that obviously you have a lot of different talents. You're not like someone who just has one thing that you do. Like obviously you're interested in a lot of different types of media, and like you're saying, you're an ideas person. So what was it? Because you were kind of working in a it's not like you didn't have a good job. You were working at a creative place, yeah. But what was it that you felt like? I feel like where you were back then, you were in a pretty good job. There's probably people out there who would have told you, hey, Isaac, isn't your job fine? Why are you dissatisfied with it? So what was it that for you made it not okay to just keep going through the motions and stay put?
Yeah, no, you're totally right. Like I have always been very grateful of the positions I've held, and was definitely grateful for the position I was in when we met. It was just that I kind of felt, all in all, every kind of position I've worked in New York since graduating college and being here for the past 6 years has kind of come to me. And I've been fortunate to not really have to, kill myself trying to find a good job. They've kind of always been offered up to me. But that kind of was a realization I made when we started working together, was like, I've never really sought out anything for myself or kind of set a goal and pushed towards that and it had, the results come out the way I wanted. So I was happy to be working, of course, and especially in a creative industry, but I think I was just coming to the realization that, you know, this life is not totally, although I'm very grateful for it, it's not totally my own. And I want to be making efforts to really do the things that I'm excited about and that I have, you know, made the effort to come to do every day. Yeah. So is that
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like it was that situation of you're doing the work, you're in the job market, you're doing your job, it's a pretty good job, but was it almost like there's someone else creating your life for you, and it was, hold on a minute, this is great, because obviously when you first graduate you just want experience, right? And so you were getting that experience, you were lucky enough that you had things offered to you, you didn't have to fight for it. But what was that point when you realized, whoa, wait a minute, if I just keep letting things go on their own and I don't start taking control, what were you worried about could happen in the future? Was it that situation where you see some people who never took control of their career and you go, I don't want to end up like them because they seem like they don't know what they're doing with their lives, or they seem bored, or what was that thing, that future that
Yeah.
you wanted to avoid?
Well, I think just having that break in between having to be let go and then being brought back on, and just seeing, you know, this is a great company and I'm fortunate to be here, but I just see like people kind of making a life out of this career. And while I am excited to be here and kind of gain all the learnings that come about from being here, I know that it isn't my end goal. And yeah, I just wanted to have in mind what that end goal is and put in the work to make that happen. So while I had that period in pursuing things like voice acting and improvisation, and I knew kind of I was going to be pursuing that in tandem with the kind of work I'm doing as an advertising creative. So yeah, it was
Yeah.
good to come to a realization that, yeah, I can go through the motions in a sense, but I still need to make good on the things that are really going to make me passionate and excited about the work I do.
So it sounds like you were lucky enough, right? Some people would think this is a terrible thing that their contract comes to an end, and you took advantage of that to get back in touch with, hey, this is what I want to really do. Because so many people don't, not that you necessarily must have a break in order to realize who you are and what it is that you want to do, but it sounds like for you it was you're going to work, you're super busy, it's difficult to take a moment to go, whoa, where am I headed here? What do I want to do with my life? And so since you had that natural break, you just found yourself in that situation where you kind of were able to think a little bit about yourself and what is it that you want and what's this direction, without that day-to-day just flow just grabbing you and pulling you along the river kind of thing.
Yeah, right. Because it also is creatively draining, because I'm giving so much of myself and in the creative work I do day in and day out, that I would come home a little bit fatigued and not exactly incredibly motivated to make
to
good
do
on
your own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that happens to a lot of people. It's the time, obviously, the hours of the day, but even more than that, it's the energy, where your job naturally takes a lot of energy out of you. Most people, unless you have a job that doesn't really require you to do very much, right? But most people are very busy and probably kind of stressed in their job, or if not stressed, at least they're having to think and do something that requires their brain. So yeah, it doesn't give you much energy to figure out what it is that you want to do. And I think internally, even if you're not thinking about it all the time, it kind of can start to eat away inside and have different effects. Like, did you have any effects that were kind of like symptoms of that happening? Like, you talked about being sort of drained at the end of the day, but was there anything else that was kind of a signal that you weren't quite in control, or you weren't quite necessarily heading where you wanted to be going?
I was actually reading through my identity worksheet, which
Yeah,
is,
where you were in the beginning
yeah,
of the program.
yeah, the first kind of exercise where you,
Yeah.
and yeah, I was just, you know, I think I was in a place where I was being brutally honest with myself, and maybe to a point where I was getting a little, not negative. I mean, I was coming to terms with a lot of, I don't know, just the comfortability. This, you know, corporate America is a very comfortable place, and like, at least this position, you know, it can be cushy, and it can really deter a kind of like sense of wanting to, I don't know, strive for things greater beyond the position that you're in. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I mean, there were times where yeah, I just felt creatively drained, and just that I would kind of like compare myself a lot. I mean, that's
Mm,
something I always have done. In New York, it's easy to do that because
yeah.
so many interesting creative people here doing amazing things all the time. And I would go to LinkedIn and compare people's paths with mine, and like, where were they when they were my age? And it's just like, that is a trap, because everyone has a different path, obviously. But it's,
Yeah.
you do want to like refer to people and understand, like,
Yeah.
having an age, but it can be, it can
Yeah.
be.
It sounds like, I think, yeah, it's like what you're saying. It can be good to compare in this, if it's in the sense of, oh, like this person got really far really fast. Let's
Mhm.
see how that's possible for me as well, right? So if it's something that's encouraging versus discouraging, like, oh, they got there so fast, and what am I doing with my life? I guess there's no hope for me. So that can go really two ways. You can look to other people for inspiration, or you can look to them for desperation
Yeah.
and giving up. Or, either comparing, okay, they did really, really well, so I guess I'm just doing terribly. Or sometimes I see people comparing themselves to other people and going, well, I guess I'm not that bad. Like, I guess I'm pretty, for my age and whatever, I guess I'm doing okay. And
Mhm.
actually denying themselves opportunities because they're comparing to other average people who are getting average results. So, yeah, you do definitely have to be careful with that comparison game.
Yeah, and one thing, just I know we kind of are talking about before the program, but just in coming out of the program, how important it is to not do that, but to compare yourself to yourself like a week ago or a month ago.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Like, are you actually progressing? Because most people, if they're honest, if they compare themselves to yesterday, a week ago, a month ago, a year ago,
yeah, then
there's not a ton of progression, right?
yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, that is what creates a motivation. I think an appreciation for what you've done and where you've come is
Hmm.
is to look at yourself, and to, yeah, challenge yourself and your progress, and not get caught up in that comparison of others.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, so tell us a little bit more because you're multi-talented, you have a lot of different interests, you had a ton of different ideas about stuff you could do. What was it that was stopping you from really figuring out, okay, what is the thing that I'm meant to pursue here? What is my mission basically? What is my focus? What was the thing that was blocking you from figuring that out on your own?
Um, I think I just was overwhelmed all the time, because I have so many interests and passions, and I am skilled in a variety of areas. So just knowing what it is I wanted to focus on, because yeah, I have so many ideas. Like, I want to start my own content creation consultancy. I want to act. I want to pursue voice acting. I want to, stay here and be an art director. Or, there's just like, they all kind of live in the same world, but I just didn't know what I needed to focus on and spend time on really developing. Because yeah, I feel like I'm a jack of all trades and master of none sometimes.
Yeah.
And
The curse of being multi-talented, right? And interested in a lot of different things, and then you find yourself not doing any of them, which is even worse.
yeah, yeah, and it's even like that has been the case here at Riot Studio. Is, I've gone from being like a general creative to a creative strategist to now an art director, and I know I've like operated at full capacity in each of those roles.
Hmm.
But for myself, knowing what I want to be working on, I just didn't know. I'm like the master of list making, and
Yeah.
I come up with this plan, but I was always kind of, I wasn't good at the follow through. So yeah, I needed, like, I think accountability is like a big thing. And yeah, just actually building out a kind of real list that would see me through to a more clear vision of what it is I
Hmm.
wanted to be doing. Because I had a bunch of ideas, and they were all pretty, in line with the trajectory of, my
Yeah.
career.
But it was actually figuring out which one to focus on and then the steps to take.
Right.
to get there. And then, yeah, the follow through.
Yeah. Right.
And I think part of the lack of follow through, like, you know, a lot of people, they think that, oh, I'm just procrastinating. Maybe I'm just lazy. Maybe I'm just, you know, not that motivated. I need to get more motivated, right? And sometimes that can be another symptom of lack of follow through, when actually it's just that lack of focus and lack of clarity and knowing that you're really excited, right? And this, tell us a bit about what happened with you, because you ended up realizing how passionate you were about voiceover acting. Obviously, you knew you were passionate about that before, but it was like you weren't giving yourself permission, right, to really go for it. Because everyone says, I mean, it's such a cliche, becoming an actor, you can't do that, right? So can you tell us a little bit more about maybe some of the social, what do you want to call it, social stigma, or just some blockages, that mental blockages you had towards actually realizing the thing that you really wanted to do?
Yeah. I again, when I was reading my identity worksheet, I was just totally unloading about where I was, what my blocks were, what I wanted to be doing. And I read in there was just like one line about what ifs, my like struggle with, I don't want to be a person who's constantly asking what if. And one of my hypothetical what ifs was about, what if I had pursued acting and voice acting? And after the identity worksheet, we went through a bunch of other exercises, and I thought I was on this path to kind of becoming a creative consultant. And there was just like still this like weird tension I had, or like,
yeah, you were like resisting doing it, right?
right. I had like this anxiety, or like, you know, and I think it was because like subconsciously I knew it wasn't really what I wanted to be.
Definitely, because as soon as we figured out what it was, things started moving.
Yeah, right. Once I
Like,
got
you're not
myself,
nobody's a lazy person. Well, some people are lazy, but people like you are not lazy. You just have a lot of different interests and a lot of skills, and it's that lack of focus usually, or the permission to go for the thing that you really want to do. Because a lot of times, I mean, I'm sure this has happened to you as well. Like when I was young, I was told, okay, you like art, but you're not going to be an artist. Find something related to art, right? And I'm sure a lot of creative people are always like, okay, but I can't actually be an actor, or I can't actually be an artist, but I can do something related to it. And they try to find, you know.
Yeah, that's how I got into advertising, was because I wanted to be a screenwriter. And I loved acting, but my mom was a graphic designer, and I just knew, you know, I saw my dad struggle to try and make screenwriting and acting happen. And I knew if I got into advertising, it would be like making mini commercials. I'd be able to be visual, kind of write mini stories, branded message. And I've been fortunate to kind of do that with branded content. It's more story driven and more narrative, long form, but it's still not totally what I wanted to be doing.
Yeah, there was that something else. And for some people that works. Like for some people, you might want to act, and doing something like that gives you that. Or graphic design will fulfill the part of you that wants to create art. For that, some people, it definitely will fulfill you, but it sounds like for you there was still that thing missing, and that was the thing that you had to find.
So it was, I think, and working through that and getting far along in a certain direction, and then having a reckoning with myself to be like, you know what, I'm taking the time to do this, I might as well be honest with myself and say that this thing, which is like voice acting and acting, is the thing that I really want to be doing. So then, kind of in the middle of everything, we made a pivot to that. So,
and then I really noticed your energy changed completely once you had that realization. It was so, I don't know if you noticed it as much as I did, but your whole confidence changed, your whole energy changed. You started showing up totally differently. It was like you were a different person right after you had that realization.
That's great.
And it's lasted, because that happened a while ago now. And I've noticed that over the weeks, it's still there. So it's not like you have this awakening one morning and you feel great that day, and the next day you're back to who you were before. Like once you really figure out what it is that you're meant to do, you have that direction, you know what to work on, you're actually excited to work on it. And that's what's really cool to see.
I'm glad it showed, because I think coming to an understanding of what it is I really wanted, and then owning it, because it is this thing of like performance and, you know, theater, and, you know, it's like everyone in New York is struggling to do that, of course, but finding my voice in a certain arena, which, you know, a performance in voice acting, and voice acting is a very lucrative side of performance and acting. And I've been able to do voice acting at my job here because we make explainer videos. So yeah, just like owning that is what I wanted, and being like totally unabashed in that, and communicating that to people so that there is a kind of
yeah, you're not afraid to tell them what you want to do. You're not hoping, I hope they give me this opportunity. You know how to explain to them, hey, this is what I do. I'm good at it. You can kind of, quote unquote, sell yourself and get people to notice you and start giving you those opportunities.
Right. Yeah. So I think that was a big turning point, was just being honest and owning it.
Yeah, I think this is a really big thing. Once you have the clarity about the thing that you're going to own and your mission and the kind of work that you're going to do, then a lot of those opportunities start coming together and start flowing. Whereas a lot of people think, well, I'll just wait and see what opportunities come along, and then hopefully I find the opportunity that I enjoy, as opposed to figuring out what it is you want to do, and then people are going to send you those opportunities, even within your own company, like you were saying. And that's really interesting, because it's something that I know happened with Sarah when we did her interview, where she, just like you, she actually ended up staying in her company, but with better opportunities when she had that focus of direction. So for some people, it's leaving their company. For some people, it's actually staying where they are, but just getting upgraded, getting promotions. And I know you got a promotion as well. And, salary raises, different opportunities to work on the projects you want. Like all these things will happen once you have that actual focus. Yeah. So that's really interesting to see. And then, the one other thing I wanted you to tell us about was, because it was also something that was important to you, that you had that feeling you wanted to start up your own thing, right? So I think some people are fine being in a job where it's a stable job and that's it. But there are some people out there, like I believe you were as well, you just felt like you needed to have your own thing in addition. It's not enough to just have your job. You still like your job, you still want to be in that job, but you also wanted to have your own thing. So can you tell us a little bit more about how that's going?
Yeah. It's still a process right now, I think, because like you mentioned, I was offered a full-time position here at Riot Studio as an art director. So it, obviously with like non-compete agreements, it makes it a little bit trickier to want to be a full-fledged kind of operation independently. But that doesn't mean I don't get to kind of do the freelance kind of work that I hope to be doing one day, full time. You've already started, right? You've been doing some freelance voiceovers. Yeah, and luckily I'll be able to kind of transition my business to, like, voice acting will not compete with branded content or exactly. So it's related but different enough that it's okay to be doing both. Right. So I'm working on, just the other week I was at, or just earlier this past week, I was at a networking event with a bunch of voice actors here in the city. And just meeting people and understanding how you kind of build your own business because for the most part, voice actors record from their homes. It's less of a thing with all the technology and tools that exist today. All of your jobs can be done remotely or from your home. So I'm working on kind of like building my home studio setup so I can audition for jobs, because in order to audition for the work, you have to have a proper sound and studio setup. Yeah, of course. So I finished my training. I just finished my second demo 2 weeks ago, so I'll be getting that mixed and sent back to me, and then I'll be able to use those as marketing tools to build my website and proactively send them out to agents and production heads at different audio studios in the city here. So I'm making the moves. It's like a step-by-step kind of thing, but you see all the steps in front of you, and it's clear. It's clear you're going to succeed because you know exactly what you need to do, and you've already had contracts before. It's not like you haven't been offered any any contract. So this is all a process that's already started, and it's really good to see your kind of confidence about that, and knowing that it's not. A lot of people, when they start something like this, they would go, well, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to try to do that. We'll see what happens. And there's none of that kind of energy with you. It's okay. This is what I'm doing. Step A, step B, step C. It's like, okay, this is happening versus let's see if this happens. And I think that's
it doesn't sound like a big difference, but that's one of the biggest problems actually I see with people when they're trying to start their own business or start their own freelancing or their own side project. It's this, oh, let's see, but they're not really clear on what they need to do.
Yeah. And not to bring up the identity worksheet again, but I'm going to. I read that
Yeah.
I had written just that, like that I get caught up in this big end goal, that I kind of overlook the steps that are required to get there and just kind of beat myself up because I'm not there. But there's obviously
steps in between. Exactly.
Yeah, that was like a big part of, the weekly kind of reflections and goal setting for the week. So that all makes it all the more attainable and realistic when you kind of approach it in a micro kind of.
Yeah, you have actual steps. And I think this is what sabotages so many people. They have this big dream, but it seems kind of unrealistic, or even if it is realistic, they're just throwing, like I hate this expression, but throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping something sticks, right? And then they're just kind of trying different things and it's not really working. And then they're like, well, I don't know. But there's not this actual approach. So, okay, so I know you keep bringing up the identity worksheet. If people don't know what that is, this is where you look at who are you as a person right now, and then who do you want to become? And then you can work on those things. Because a lot of people think that you should get an opportunity and then that opportunity is going to turn you into the person you want to be. So once you're this, let's say you want to be a voiceover actor. Once you're a voiceover actor, then you will be this happy person and this and that. But actually you need to become the person you want to be first, and then you will get those opportunities. And most people are not willing to do that work, to take those steps to become the person that they need to be. Brand themselves accordingly so that then they can then get those opportunities. So what was the single biggest thing then in the program that helped you the most? And what were your kind of skepticisms going in? Like, were you wondering, like, is this really going to work? What is this current identity thing going to do for me? Or I'm also curious about that.
Yeah. So what was I skeptical of? And then what was the other part of the question?
Yeah. What was there anything that you were like, is this really going to work? Or any kind of parts you were skeptical about? And what was the single biggest thing in the program that helped you?
Yeah. I was totally skeptical from the start.
I love it.
I was, because I had never done anything like this. I'd never looked to outside resources to kind of help guide me or keep me accountable. And so I was, and just like like I said, I'm a master list maker. And sometimes, to make excuses for myself, I would like critique some of the exercises as being like, these are just more lists. And like,
I know how to make lists already.
Yeah. So, but obviously like seeing, I had never detailed or considered the things I value or what my values are. So that was, I came into an appreciation for what the worksheets and the exercises were actually extracting from me and forcing me to come to examine and kind of consider what I wanted to get out of them or what I wanted to become in a very constructive kind of way. And then I think, the most valuable, I think the identity worksheet really helped me kind of like set a tone for the program, and just in general kind of shifted my thinking, because it just happened during a phase of my life where I really was reflecting and kind of coming to an understanding of how certain things or certain patterns of behavior, like what the root of them was, or what kind of my distractions, like where they were stemming from, and recognizing when they would happen and what I needed to do to shift that thinking or behavior to be more productive. Being a little bit more in touch.
It sounds very wishy-washy, and I think it's so important, because a lot of people, I don't know, there might be people watching going, well, that's good for Isaac. He is more in touch with himself, right? But this is what needs to be done to get the opportunities that you want. Like, if you don't have the job that you want, or you're not getting the jobs that you want, it's because, and nobody wants to hear it, no, you haven't become the person that you need to be to get them. There are skills there's clarity that you don't have that you need to have. There are skills you need to have. They might be the branding skills. It might be the communicating what it is that you do skills, communicating your worth skills. Look at all the people complaining they don't earn enough money, but they're not clear on their value and they don't know how to communicate their value. So of course they're not earning the money they want to be earning. Or they complain they haven't been able to start their side business, but they have no clarity about what they want to do, right? So there's a process to become the person that you need to be that most people are not willing to go through. And the kind of things you've talked just about right now, just being really honest about, okay, I was procrastinating, and just most people don't want to admit those things. So no wonder they stay in the same place. They're not really willing to take a really honest look at themselves and make some decisions about how they're going to upgrade themselves and, get someone else's help. Who wants to ask a coach for help, right? Nobody wants to do that. So all of these things are why you've gotten to where you are and why you're going to go really, really far. And there's no doubt about that. Like you can see your confidence, you can see that you know the steps, you're in the right networks right now, you're in the right circles. But that's all because you were willing to get honest and start actually making some changes and doing some hard work that most people aren't willing to do. So that's really cool.
Yeah. And I think it is like an iterative and a cyclical process. You have to be willing to not be stuck in, obviously, being honest and get on the upfront, but then being willing to kind of like make adjustments as you encounter obstacles and encounter realizations that, oh, maybe I want to focus more in depth in this area, or maybe I want to shift a little bit this way. And then, over time, kind of restarting the process of evaluation and kind of goal setting again once you've kind of gotten to a slightly higher level up.
You start again, right? And I think that's the problem. I think for some reason we're taught a lot of the times things are black and white, and actually things are quite gray, and there's that iterative process like you're saying. And it's not that you're either a loser or you're super successful. You can be like, you were very successful before you started any of this, and you were multi-talented. There were many things you could do, but you realized you could be even awesomer. So you decided to have an honest look at where you were, the good and the bad, or not even bad, but just something that you want to improve even more. And you're willing to get honest about that so you can get to higher and higher and higher levels.
Yeah.
I like it. So what other questions I have for you? I guess final question is there anything else you want to add? And what would you say to someone who is back where you were before, who's really creative, has lots and lots of talents, and is in a bit of that state of confusion about taking control of your own life and crafting your own path?
Yeah, I would say don't waste any more time debating the what ifs, and just, work on pick a direction and go. And because I mean, it's just forward momentum. It's just that is what is going to help you sift through the uncertainties, because along the path you're gonna come into a greater sense of your direction. So you might wind and veer a little, but you're gonna come into a more a clarity and a surety. So it's just committing and doing, and you're not going to be right or have the answer right away, but it's just taking the time to be intentional and honest, and just keeping at it. Because I'm not there yet, but I am excited about where I've gotten.
Yeah. I mean, nobody's arrived, right? Your whole life is going to be a process, and you're going to keep going. But that's a really, really good message, because especially when you're in a bit of that state of confusion, when you're in some kind of a rut, when you're not sure what to do next, momentum is one of the biggest problems, right? You're not really you're not moving, and then your brain will also trick you into, as soon as you do get moving, or something starts going in the right direction, your brain wants to stop you and not allow you to have that momentum. And then, like you're saying, it's not about getting everything perfect, because people will also say, well, I'll wait for the perfect opportunity to show up, or I'll wait for everything to be perfect, and what if I fail? And then again, that stops them. They don't move. Yeah.
And I would just recommend anyone to read War of Art.
Yeah.
A lot about resistance, and just how we're faced with resistance every day, how to overcome that, because we all are creative in whatever kind of industry you might work in. Creative thinking is so important, and forcing yourself to overcome resistance in a way so you can do more and think more creatively. I think that's important.
Take creative decisions versus fear-based decisions, which are never creative and never bring you to the place that you want to be.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for that. I think that was really, really interesting. It was definitely interesting for me. I'm sure it was interesting for a lot of the other people watching. And yeah, we'll wrap up if that's.
Yeah.
You've shared many words of wisdom, so this has been great. Okay, I'm super excited for you, Isaac. Definitely keep us posted about everything that comes next. I know you're going to be taking your sphere by storm. So really, really looking forward to everything that's going to be happening for you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Talia.
All right, Isaac. Talk to you soon.
Good weekend.
You too. Bye.